It's hasta la vista baby for Paul Childerley as he heads back to Spain after Ibex.
It would be a fantastic shot, 530 metres.
Meanwhile, Nicole Moore is coping with a difficult day's pigeon shooting in Cambridgeshire.
There we go, in the water.
And what is the government thinking? Basque is taking DEFRA to court over its CAC handling of gamebird release rules. Will it all be sorted out in time for this season?
There's been no time to plan, there was no consultation, and it's left the whole shooting community really in complete limbo.
We have a competition for you to win a pair of Leica binoculars priced at £700. David has the news on the news stump and James Marchington has the best hunting and shooting videos in hunting YouTube. Welcome to Fieldsports Britain. Mountain hunts mean vertical challenges. Angles and gravity test fitness, your kit and your shooting skills. Paul is taking advantage of a return invitation to southern Spain following a muntjac hunt with the Spanish film crew at his place a few years ago. It's taken a while for the stars to align, but we're here and it is warm.
31 degrees. So from the last filming at -30, we're 31 up. So 61 degrees. So might be heat stroke instead of frostbite, David. So yeah, so we're up here and we're after a Ronda Ibex.
Ronda Ibex, the smallest of Spain's 4 Ibex subspecies found in the mountains around the town of Ronda in Andalusia. We have no idea what to expect, but Paul has prepared for a long-range shot.
You start with
It's not long before we spot our first Ibex, or at least Julio, our guide, does. Wherever we stalk, it takes time to adjust and see the world through our guide's eyes until we get ours tuned in.
Down, low, 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 low until you find it. Okay, just in the middle.
Eventually, we too see Ibex, but not ones we can shoot. There are young males and females. We are after a mature male. It will be the last one of the season. As we change locations, Julio tells us we are breaking Spanish hunting law. Mods are not permitted.
We got through customs eventually. It's quite another interesting trip through customs. We got through there, no problem at all. They were more worried about paperwork and numbers for areas of hunting. Showed them the rifle, no problem at all. So we're hunting with it. Ibex, Ronda, no problem at all. And then we've just been informed that we can't use the silencer for hunting. So we're not going to. So we'll take it off, we'll have a shot, get re-zeroed, and yeah, we'll put our fingers in our ears. So no problem.
Paul passes the baton to David, though that poor effort breaks athletic rules too. With the sun dropping, we head to a rock face that's normally swarming with animals. It's just above a natural drinking spot, but a heat wave has thrown everything up in the air.
Didn't like the idea of eating it, did he?
No. Again, you know, they got to shoot them and they got to manage the stock and they got the herd or whatever you want to call it. But you're saying, you know, it is left on the side of the mountain, but it's not just chucked and wasted. It's basically for a purpose. I remember in Pasuti Mountains, it's a big thing to feed the birds of prey, the black vultures, obviously endangered species. So they actually got these feed areas up there. So they take all the Ibex, any dead sheep, any dead cattle, to actually feed the vultures there. So again, you know, an old Ibex is going back. It obviously needs to be cold. Obviously no good for human consumption. I think we should get a couple of back straps out and let Mr. Wright have a little taste. Yeah, musty old goat.
Oh, I don't like goat.
Well, that's what it is, isn't it? It's a goat, so. And they like wee over their beard and their thing to make themselves more nice. Billy goat.
That's like a nightclub I know.
Yes, David, right.
The following morning, it's a joy to be up as the sun rises. Paul even fancies a spot of meditation. It works, and there are more ibex in them there hills.
Full-bodied one. We're on the ridge, and go over to that hump to the left. He's got his head sticking over the other one.
The trouble is, they're all female. As the day warms, our chances diminish, so Julio ends up guiding Paul and David through different terrain. Before you can say dos cervezas por favor, we are back up in the mountains around Ronda. Returning to the same spot we started in yesterday, there is a male. It's a shot Paul would relish. He even does some maths. He's put in plenty of range time with his S20 and 6.5 Creedmoor.
I would say probably 42 clicks, but I'll be happy with that. Yeah, 40 clicks for 15-inch drops at 500 metres. Yeah, got a bit of wind from the right. Probably 2 inches, I'd say.
He chooses the rough tech desert stock for this trip with its special surface to look the part in the arid terrain and to stop it slipping through hot hands.
It would be a fantastic shot, 530 metres. He's sat on a rock. He stood up and turned around a few minutes ago. He sat there. It'd be a hell of a shot. It would be a nice one to remember, but not the right animal. So,
on closer inspection, this animal has a lot of genetic potential, and the guides want to leave it. Unfortunately, the same plan of intercepting them en route to the water doesn't work, and for the first time in a long time, we have blanked. Paul, however, disagrees.
yeah, we haven't shot an animal, but I wouldn't say it's blanked. It's been a great experience. Seeing you get tucking into all the fish and the seafood in the restaurant earlier, like normal. Beautiful area. Yeah, just so wild. No people, which is perfect. And yeah, I wouldn't say we blanked. I think we've gained knowledge for the next trip.
Are we going to come back then?
Yeah, I think we're talking about coming back in the rut in November. So that'd be quite exciting. Again, if we can get two male ibex clashing, that would be like awesome on the rocks. But I just think it's so funny. We were talking earlier, when you're a guide, when the weather's bad or the animal's not around, you work so much harder. Jesus, today he's been up on top of the mountains and going over the back and then coming back, and it's been absolutely sweltering heat. So yeah, he's put the time and effort in. Just the animals are moved because I think it's probably food source. Stuff dries up, no nutrients, and they just go to different areas and probably get out of the blazing heat and turn them into summer mode. So yeah, but yeah, it's not bad, is it? It's not like it's it's in the middle of London. Not that London's bad for a day.
So, avoiding London, we hope we'll be back in the winter to witness the spectacle that is the Ibex rut, as long as the weather behaves. For more information about the Sacco S20 and the range of stocks, go to sacco.fi, and for details about hunting with Julio and Atlas Hunting, his email address is in the description below. Thank you, Paul. Now we have a membership offer for you. Thanks to the team at Jack Pike, we have a special membership promotion. If you buy an annual Fieldsports Nation membership for £50, we will send you £45 worth of Jack Pike gear, including a canvas field rucksack, trigger lock and Pro Sport earplugs, for just $4.99 to cover postage. Conditions apply. We've got 50 rucksacks to give away, and they are going fast. See the link below for full details. Next, here to let the cat out of the bag, it's David on the Fieldsports channel, News Stump.
This is Fieldsports Channel News. The police firearms licensing unit that issued the shotgun licence to the Plymouth mass shooter is to be split up. Devon and Cornwall Police formed a shared unit with Dorset Police. This will now be separated. An inquest into the shootings heavily criticised the unit for its failures in issuing a shotgun licence to the man who killed 5 people in 2021. During the 5-week inquest, the firearms licensing unit was described as a shambles. Police have charged a 72-year-old man after 5 goshawks were found shot and killed in West Suffolk. The birds of prey were found in January at a parking area near Bury St Edmunds. X-rays showed all 5 birds had suffered injuries from multiple pieces of shot. Suffolk Police have charged a local man with multiple offences, including 5 counts of possession of a Schedule 1 wild bird, use of an animal trap and firearms offences. He will appear before magistrates at the end of June 2023. Firefighters have been tackling another fire on Marsden Moor. It's the 8th fire in the area this year. West Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service warned the public to keep away from the area near Butterley Reservoir on the 9th of June. They stayed for 24 hours to dampen down the wildfire. The National Trust, which owns Marsden Moor, is ideologically opposed to Muirburn, which would create fire breaks. Staying with fires, and UK firefighters are to deploy new techniques to tackle the increase in wildfires. This year has already seen hundreds of wildfires, and one of the UK's largest ever at Cannock in Scotland covered 30 square miles. It could be seen from space. More fire crews are now training in skills from the world's worst wildfire hotspots in southern Europe and the US. This will include expanding the number of specialist teams trained in burn suppression techniques, the deliberate burning of land to keep a fire contained. At the moment, just 5 UK units across more than 50 fire and rescue services specialise in the fighting fire with fire technique, mostly in moorland areas. The Countryside Alliance fears that a new bill which aims to licence grouse moors will appoint the SSPCA as a new police force. The Wildlife Management and Muirburn Scotland Bill, currently debated in the Scottish Parliament, could lead to more powers for the anti-grouse shooting Scottish Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Scottish Countryside Alliance Director Jake Swindles says the bill aimed to commission the charity to carry out evidence gathering and investigation.
We have genuine concerns over the Scottish Government's proposal to extend specific powers to the SSPCA, an organisation that's already shown bias against field sports. Now, whether these powers include the ability to investigate further than they're currently able to, or whether they are in relation to evidence gathering, it's worth noting that many police forces throughout the UK train their officers for in excess of 2 years to be able to call them competent. So we need to be very careful that any prosecution brought forward by Police Scotland isn't undermined by the process.
The government has expanded the badger cull. It's issued supplementary cull licences to 29 zones in England. Natural England published new licences in zones from Cornwall to Cheshire. It comes as the government seeks to move away from culls in favour of badger vaccination, increased cattle testing and the development of a cattle vaccine. Survival expert and TV presenter Ray Mears says the UK is not prepared for the release of wild lynx and wolf. Speaking at a Cheltenham Science Festival, he says that they're likely to become feared and hated if they're reintroduced into Britain's forests. He wants to see viable compensation schemes and incentives for farmers and gamekeepers. He points to the US, where the reintroduction of wolves to Idaho led to monumental hatred of the animals. It's the last week of the consultation on gamebird releases in Wales, and the shooting organisations are encouraging shooters from across the world to take part. Natural Resources Wales released the online consultation at the end of March, and there's a link to it below. It details proposals to introduce a licensing system for the release of pheasants and red-legged partridge in Wales. If the proposals are implemented, gamebird releasing will be restricted and only allowed under licence, giving the anti-shooting Welsh Government the power to shut down game shooting in Wales. The deadline for commenting is the 20th of June 2023.
We are in the final few days, so please, if you have not responded to the consultation, if you have not signed the Countryside Alliance e-lobby, please go to our website and do so. Not only sign it, but share it far and wide, because the future of shooting here in Wales really does depend on your support.
Hunters in Zimbabwe are angry over a private member's bill which aims to ban the importing of hunting trophies to the UK. An investigation by the Mail newspaper revealed that many feel that the West is poking its nose into affairs that it doesn't understand. The article quotes Africans who say that the West doesn't comprehend their wildlife numbers, nor what it's like to live next to dangerous animals. MP Henry Smith's bill gained support in the House of Commons and will now be debated in the Lords. And finally, an angler has caught a pike nearly 4 foot long and estimated to weigh about 40 pounds. Thomas Dojak was fishing in Pitsford Water in Northamptonshire when he landed the fish after a 30-minute tussle. He measured the fish and released it without weighing it as he wanted to prioritise its health. He says although the pike may have had record potential, he didn't have scales, and if he'd waited, the fish may not have survived. The current record for a pike is nearly 47 pounds from South Wales in 1992. You are now up to date with Fieldsports Channel News. Stalking the stories, fishing for facts.
Thank you, David. Please click like below this film if you like David. Now, we had a winner of last week's competition for an entry to the British Open 410 Championships at the end of August. Trevor Knowles will join a squad consisting of Paul Childerley, Ollie Williams and Jeff Garrett, and we will be filming how they get on for a Fieldsports Britain episode in September. This week's prize draw is for a pair of 8x20 Leica ultravid binos priced at £700. They are superb, as you might imagine, with the elements of the larger ultravids reduced to fit in a compact space, so they offer the same resolution and sharpness and let you enjoy a wide, detailed view without colour fringing. Thanks to Leica for donating the binos. You don't have to win them. You can find out more about them on the Leica website. If you want to win them, easiest way to enter the competition is to join the Fieldsports Nation and watch their special Tuesday night show, Fieldsports Extra. Link to that below. Next, Nicole Moore is out after pigeons.
Pigeon shooter Nicole Moore is having a frustrating time. She's been looking forward to getting out in the hide, but things are not going according to plan.
Right, 2 more shots and I'll get one. Because it normally takes 5 to get my eye in. We've had 3.
Nicole has been shooting for more than 10 years. She says every day in the field is still a learning day.
They were coming in to have a look, but they weren't really slowing down or getting as low as I'd like. And I feel it's because I wasn't giving them enough room to land. And this one's thinking about it, and I think it's done the same thing. So I feel like I've moved the whole pattern about 50 yards to the left. I feel like I need to move the back of it maybe another 10, 20 yards to the left, because most of them are coming in from the right and they're not getting enough room to land. So they're going up and going, oh, I'm not sure about this. The ones that are coming in from the left are just kind of swooping in and carrying on. So it's quite windy today as well, so that's making a difference. They're not able to land as easily as they would be if it were a still day like it was the other day when I was out. And they can just gently flutter in. Oh. Yeah, see that one just, he's gonna land at the other end of my pattern. Or at the other end of the field completely. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm gonna step out and I'm gonna move the whirly. I think that's what's causing the issue.
Today is all about crop protection. We're on a field of mustard, which the pigeons are keen to munch.
This is the main field that we want to focus on protecting. Hopefully we'll be doing more than just being scarecrows and actually get a few down today. The wind is against me slightly because of the direction. This is one of the best places to put a hide in the field, but in terms of the wind direction, we actually want it going the other way. But, you know, they're interested enough, they're having a look. Definitely not easy shooting when they're swooping in on the wind. Again, the wind it's the wrong direction, but it's also quite a strong breeze and quite gusty. So, you know, they're kind of maybe not coming quite so far in as I'd like, but they're also coming in really fast. It then means that if they spot something they don't like, they can shoot off really fast as well. Sometimes before I've even had a chance to see them, let alone shoot them. But it's all part of the game, and I am determined to win some of the game today. A few matches, if not the whole game. My favourite shape to use in the first few years, based on what I was told and what I could see kind of working, was a horseshoe. Today I've gone with a kind of bunched up J, but they are just looking and not landing and travelling off to the other side of the field. Yeah, but it's frustrating. I think I will change my pattern again for the last time. Changing that pattern has instantly made a difference. They were definitely wanting to land, they were definitely coming closer to me. I think this is the best that I'm going to get pattern-wise, so I'm going to leave it like this for now. The only thing that would be probably better would be if I were to move to the other side of the field and flip everything round the other way. But I've only got a couple of hours left, so I'm not going to do that. Oh! With the wind, I'm not gauging that well enough. The speed that they're flying at. Yeah. Which is frustrating because, again, with the decoy, it's just like, I'm just so used to them just going flap, 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 and just like almost hovering.
To the decoys,
yeah.
It's a lot more straightforward.
Yeah. Oh, not frustrated at all. Absolutely fine. You win some, you lose some. Pesky pigeons. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. There we go. In the water. Oh dear. He snuck around the front. Didn't see that one coming. I get frustrated when I miss, but on a day like today, you know, it's so challenging. It's still rewarding in a way, and all I'm doing is honing my experience and honing my skill for this type of shooting. You know, you're not going to get better at challenging shooting if you're not faced with challenging shooting. So, yeah, it's all part of the learning experience. So,
It's time to pack up. You'll have got this sorted.
I know. Like, it'll be time to go home and I'll be a pro, and there'll be nothing left to shoot. Finally, a left and a right. About time. Jeez Louise. Nice one to round off the day. What has Nicole learned that she needs to get better at shooting? I mean, like I say, I haven't been out as much this year as I have in previous years, so I've definitely noticed that I've picked up a couple of bad habits. So I need to get those straightened out, get on the clays more. And today I didn't spend as much time checking out the environment as I would normally. And that showed in terms of having to change my decoy pattern 2 or 3 times, which worked. And it also showed in terms of where I set up the hide. So it was great in terms of they couldn't see me majority of the time, but in terms of the wind direction, and also the fact that there was a line kind of going over there and from the village to that field, I would have been better on that side of the field. They would have felt more comfortable coming in that side out of the wind. But yeah, it's one to kind of mark up in the shooting diary, so I know for the future. I'm sure I'm going to be shooting this land for another decade. So, you know, it's going to help me kind of looking back on days like this to get it right next time, the first time.
So, a learning day, but
yeah.
I get the feeling you've enjoyed it anyway.
I always enjoy it, you know. I just love the buzz of it. I love the fact that the farmer knows that we're out here and you know, knows that over the year, you know, we're shooting thousands, even though it doesn't seem like it with my 10 or something that I shot today, when I get to the end of the year and the whole group of us adds up our numbers and it's, 1,500, 1,700, 2,000, I'm like, well, I helped with that, and I helped this farmer not lose too much money. So yeah, it's a good feeling.
For more about the Ely cartridges Nicole uses, go to elyhawklimited.com, and for all your pigeon shooting equipment, visit kitfinder.co.uk.
Thanks, Nicole. A couple of quick plugs. There is still time to enter the competition to join the Aimpoint Academy. There's a link to that below. Plus, do you know anyone who has been in the newspapers against their will because they like hunting and shooting? If so, there could be some money coming their way. We can't get the newspapers on hate speech, but we can get them on copyright, and there's a link on how they can make a claim in the description below. It's not a group action run by a lawyer, it's a crowd engineered action of lots of us using the online courts claim service, what used to be the small claims court. And it has made several thousand quid for shooters already, and it's available to people who live outside the UK too, as long as they're claiming from a UK-based publication. Next up, the government is making one of its occasional lazy, badly thought out attacks on shooting sports. Here's how we are reacting.
United to fight the chaos. Gamekeeper Stephen Musk is on the front line of a battle which could cost him his livelihood. His shoot in Swatham in Norfolk is close to the Breckland Special Protection Area, SPA. After a last-minute change by DEFRA on the 31st of May 2023, he's now been forced to apply for a licence to allow him to release pheasants and red-leg partridges. DEFRA's record on granting individual licences is poor. If this one doesn't arrive, Stephen says he can't accept the birds he's ordered, and it could be the end of his business.
On tenterhooks, really. Obviously, if we get rejected for a licence, or we have to do anything that incurs more costs on what is already a tight season, unfortunately, the commercial side of the shooting does keep me here. If that disappears, so will my position. I've worked long and hard to be where I am, and I wouldn't want it to end overnight through someone else's decision.
Fieldsports groups have banded together to launch a judicial review against DEFRA and Natural England. They're calling for an urgent review of GL43, the general licence that covers game bird releasing around European protected sites. BASC, the Countryside Alliance, the National Gamekeepers Organisation, and Aim to Sustain are among the signatories on a letter to DEFRA Secretary Trace Coffey, calling for the government to solve the crisis it created with the last-minute change.
Our reaction is that it's basically complete chaos because the announcement was dropped at the 11th hour, effectively the 31st of May. There's been no time to plan, there was no consultation, and it's left the whole shooting community really in complete limbo.
BASC says if shoots can't get individual licences, they can't release birds and there'll be no shooting. DEFRA will have caused problems to hundreds of shoots, thousands of businesses, and could cost millions of pounds throughout the sector.
Natural England or the government estimated that there'd be 42 shoots affected around the country. We know it's far more than that. I'm personally North York Moors based. My guess would be in the North York Moors that it would be over 100 shoots in the North York Moors alone. I would think it would be into the many hundreds around England. Now, the reason why it's probably more than they thought is because there is more shooting that goes on. We have gone through that period we discussed before of COVID, where shoots haven't been able to get going, or potentially maybe shoots had problems with getting birds with avian influenza last year. So we knew this was going to be a busier year than previous years.
A huge impact on the business, or it certainly has the potential to. And depending on how the licences are granted, it could have an absolutely catastrophic effect. We're sandwiched between the Yorkshire Dales and the Yorkshire Moors, which makes up the vast majority of our client base on the game front. And we estimate that 80% of our clients either release into an SPA.
It's all about bird flu. Fieldsports groups believe the change in licence conditions starts at DEFRA's Natural England agency, which was responsible for the 2019 general licences fiasco. Between Natural England and DEFRA, a similar disaster is unfolding, this time because of DEFRA's avian influenza risk assessment. which dates from December 2022. The high rates of bird flu at the time led DEFRA to conclude there was a possible risk of the transmission of highly pathogenic avian influenza from released game birds to wild birds during the summer of 2022. A year later, the change to the general licences is based on the belief that that remains the case, and the new rules will remain in place until summer 2025.
There have been no recorded cases of birds being released already infected with avian influenza, and there's no reason to suspect that it's likely to happen in the future. So to use this as a reason to restrict releases is completely without foundation.
Last year, when Fieldsports groups met DEFRA to review the GL43 licence, they asked and were assured that DEFRA would give as much notice as possible to any changes it planned to make.
What DEFRA don't seem to grasp is that shooting, like many businesses or like many pastimes in the countryside, that they're a year-round investment. So the planning for the shoots starts September, October the season before, certainly by January. So these shoots had ordered the birds, they were ready to go. The guns have probably paid a deposit. The hotels, the restaurants, they're all booked up. People are excited and looking forward to having a game bird season that isn't impacted by COVID, hopefully wasn't going to be too impacted by bird flu or avian influenza. And yet at the last minute, they were then told that actually these plans need to effectively go on hold because you now need to apply for a licence that they weren't expecting.
Stephen isn't sure how long he'll have to wait for his licence.
Currently, I estimated around about £90,000 already invested into deposits on game birds, game covers, wages. The list is quite significant. You know, there's lots of little things that go into it and costs that you don't really even think about. So yeah, and that is all lost if we can't carry on shooting.
Despite last-minute appeals from Fieldsports groups, DEFRA made the change. Now Basque and others are taking legal action to persuade DEFRA to reissue GL43, with SPAs included, alongside other European areas, to prevent a wildlife welfare crisis and economic collapse of a range of rural businesses.
I know the huge amount of work that's gone in to a lot of these shoots in these areas, investing in pens and making pens bigger and looking at numbers, and kind of, you know, really doing everything properly. For it to potentially all be taken away like this is just unbelievable, really. So I think, yeah, it's like I say, hopefully it will go ahead, and hopefully it's just sort of a last minute stumbling block. But the uncertainty of it all is really quite worrying.
Meanwhile, Wild Justice is also taking legal action over the GL43 licence. It says it wants last year's GL43 to stay revoked. Stephen says he won't risk releasing birds without a licence, as the penalties are too steep.
As I've heard, it's unlimited fines, potential custodial sentences, it'd be a loss of firearms. I am the licence holder, I'm the one that's applied for it, so it'd be my firearm certificate going forward, Garn. All in all, we're not prepared to do it. The stewardship, everything that's at risk, it's too much. But then the loss also on the other side is loss of jobs.
In a statement, DEFRA doubles down on its bird flu defence, with claims that its scientific assessment is robust. It claims that Natural England will process applications within a month, though that is not the experience of gamekeepers. Natural England maintains a strongly preservationist stance and anti-conservation, turning down most wildlife management applications.
If I'm honest, I don't agree with it. We were in the epicentre last year of the bird flu epidemic. We had seagulls, lots of wild birds dead on reservoirs, in and around pheasants. We didn't see any issue in our game birds at all, partridge or pheasants, and we saw no cross contamination into the wild bird stock either way. So I don't believe it would be an issue. I think actually the detriment would be to stop the shooting rather than worry about bird flu, which is in the wild bird population.
Shooting groups are determined to fight for shooters and gamekeepers, such as Stephen, to stop the sector being crippled. For more help, see the links below.
Thanks all who took part in that. Next, from politics to the wider world of hunting and shooting on YouTube, brought to you by James Marchington, it's Hunting YouTube.
This is Hunting YouTube, which aims to show the best hunting and shooting videos that YouTube has to offer. First up this week, Wash Wildfowler has a big day shooting pigeons from a hide built around a hole in the middle of a field. If anyone's concerned about shooting pigeons in the breeding season, you need to know that this is vital protection of a crop that's being destroyed by the birds. Carl Bantock from MFL Outdoors gets an urgent call from a smallholder to deal with a fox that's attacked and killed a lamb in broad daylight. He cancels his Saturday night plans and gets the job done. David from Predator Protection UK is also on a fox control job. There's a luxurious high seat in just the right spot, but it's facing the wrong direction. That's no problem to our David though, and he clobbers a dog and vixen in short order. Meanwhile, in the States, Mountain Sport Airguns has got his hands on a 50 foot-pound BRK Ghost airgun and puts it to good use culling ground squirrels, remembering to keep a wary eye out for rattlesnakes as he moves around the farm. Back to the UK, and Charlie Folds has made this film following his Olympic gold medalist dad Richard as he shoots the recent English Open Sport Trap Championship. More clays, and this one from the CPSA features coach Simon Arbuckle shooting the new discipline of super sporting with a star-studded squad that includes Phil and Amy Eastman and Josh Bridges. Alex Sayer of Strictly Shooting interviews Basque's Bill Harriman about the shocking state of the UK's firearms licensing system as they await the publication of a Home Office consultation on revamping the process. And finally, the US channel Blood Origins is concerned about the Welsh Government's proposal to license the release of pheasants and partridges, and makes an impassioned plea for all shooters to make their views known. That's it for this week. We've put all these films into a playlist for you. Click on the eye symbol top right or check this film's description. If you have a YouTube film you'd like us to pop into the weekly top 8, email Charlie the link, charlie@fieldsportschannel.tv.
Well, that's it for this week. If you haven't done so already, please visit over to our website, fieldsportschannel.tv. You can like us on Facebook and on Instagram. You can follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, pop your email address into our register page on our website, and we'll send you details about this show, Fieldsports Britain, which is at 7 PM UK time every Wednesday. And this has been Fieldsports Britain. Good hunting, good shooting, good fishing, and goodbye.